and welcome to Today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, and I have some very special guests with me today. I have the kindest electrician with us, so we're going to talk with John Kinney in just a minute. We also have our most recent city councilor, I'm getting used to not saying alderman, Joe Demers with us. And of course, as always, we have our Mayor Scott Galvin, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things that are going on with the city. So I thank all of them for joining me. And I'd first like to introduce you to Woburn's kindest electrician, John Kinney. Those of you who might be familiar have seen John and all the amazing work he's doing at Gloria's home. And we're so excited to have you join us today, John.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
So I am really curious. I really want to understand what it was like the first time that you met Gloria. You've started this such a snowball of kindness and goodness at a time when I think everyone needs to see and hear these stories. Tell me about that first time you were over at Gloria's house and what inspired you?
So basically I got called to a house because she had some sparks shooting out her light fixture. And right away I could tell she was in there all by herself. Things were, the place was messy. And the lights were in real bad shape. So once I got the lights fixed and turned on, I kind of saw like how bad it really was. So I just told her, hey, I live close by. I can help you out. If you need any help, let me know. And I took off after fixing the lights, and it just kind of stuck with me for the weekend. And I knew I had to get back in there. So I came back Monday with some friends, and we did some yard work. And that's when I realized there was even more stuff we could do. And that's what led into creating the fundraiser.
Well, I think it's such an incredible thing, and I'm so grateful. Why do you think so many people have helped? I mean, you made a very passionate plea for help, and I think you demonstrated and modeled some great behavior by being there yourself, but you've also had a tremendous companies, people, individuals, all jumping on to help and support Gloria and her home and your efforts. Why do you think that is?
We have a great community here in Woburn, and I think people all over the world just started seeing that, and it just kept spreading and spreading. There's a lot of good people out there, and I think everybody's just tired of all the bad stuff on the news today, and they were looking for a good story, and here it is.
I love it. Have you been surprised by how wide and far your story and Gloria's story have taken you?
I tell people I see witnessing miracles every day, and it's the truth. It's crazy. It's, beyond my wildest imagination.
Well, we're so grateful for it. When you look back at your own time and your own life, is there anything that stands out, a kindness that somebody did for you or your family that sort of led as an inspiration for you?
I've been meeting so many kind people every day, and nothing that stands out, but it's just, I try to look for the good in people, and throughout my life, there's been plenty of good people, plenty of people that have helped me out when I needed it, and I'm just glad I was in a position to help Gloria out.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about the first time you were on camera. What was that like for you? Was it fun? Was you nerve-wracking? Were you excited?
Yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking. Watch myself on the news. I never really realized I had an accent, and a lot of people pointed that out. So that's pretty funny. But
yeah, that's great. So I know that Gloria has been a little bit shy initially at first, certainly, and we want to respect her privacy and such. But as all of this is happening to support her, how is she feeling about things? Is she overwhelmed, or is she doing okay?
Yeah, from the woman I first met to 2 months ago to how she is now, it's a complete 180. She really opened up to everybody. She's got all types of new friends. People are coming by just to talk to her, dropping off gift baskets. It's really just been incredible to witness firsthand the transformation. She's just a happy lady now.
Yeah, well, thank you. You've touched a lot of lives, not just Gloria's, but all these people that are helping and being involved, and the whole community. And we really, really appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about your business. I mean, what brought you there in the first place was to help with a light problem, right?
Yeah, just a light problem. I'm just an electrician working local in Woburn. And it was just a regular service call, stuff we do all the time. And it was just somebody that needs some help, and I knew she wasn't going to ask for it. And, it's been a blessing to be a part of this and witness like all the good people coming forward and helping out. I've met so many incredible people, and the stories, like you said, that like this has inspired other people to do good things, and to hear those stories and to know that it had a ripple effect. It's just incredible.
Yeah, you know, I've been really impressed by the wide variety of people who have participated, people who have very specific skills, painting and landscaping and carpentry, people donating from restaurants to help feed the volunteers, like just all kinds of things. I even think I saw Captain Jack take a picture with Gloria a couple of days ago. And so it's so great to see all of that happening. We thank you very much for, you know, triggering all of this in our community. Before I let you go, I just wanted to ask you two additional questions. One is, if somebody is looking to participate and support Gloria, I think you have a Facebook page. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah. So the best place would be to follow along the Facebook group page, Gloria's Gladiators. We're posting constant updates on that, and we have over 15,000 members. So definitely that's the best place to check us out.
That's great. And just this is part B. It's not my second question, just to be clear. I got one more after this. I'm saving it.
Okay.
If folks are interested in learning more about your electrical practice, where can they find that information?
So I designed the website myself, and it's kinneyelectric.net.
I love it. And that's Kinney, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you. My last question to you is really just what your hope for Gloria is. As you look around all these things that are happening that you've helped initiate, what are you hoping for?
You know, just for Gloria to have a relaxing rest of her days, just being able to stay at her house. You know, she lives 5 minutes away from me. She's connected with my wife, my daughter, and she's really had a huge impact on my life. She reminds me so much of my grandmother, and it's just the last 2 months I've connected with her, and she's going to be a part of my life. So I'm just looking for her. You know, she was in there by herself for so long in the dark. Now it's just time to enjoy and be happy. And she is. And I just want to see that smile for the rest of her time.
I really love that. That should be a noble goal. And I think it's a really healthy reminder. A lot of us, we forget the houses we walk by, the people that we see, to really just, we can make a huge difference. And thank you so much for reminding us of that, John. We really, it's wonderful work. Give Gloria a big hug for us, and tell her we're so excited to see that smile. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much.
Great. Good. Well, that was my feel-good story. Scott, I'm really sorry that you have to follow John, because that is a really tough act to follow. Welcome.
He's one of the most popular people in the state.
It's incredible. I'm so touched by the work that they're doing and helping out one of our fellow residents. It's really great.
It's a nice story.
It is. Let's spend a minute, talk a little bit about Woburn's COVID response. Last week when we connected, we were in yellow, but the numbers had started to tick down. The state only updates every week, so it can't, we're certainly in the same place we were a few days ago. Anything information that you have about the trending? Do you expect us to be kind of stable, or? We
seem stable, and when I say that stable, I went over this with the school committee and the superintendent, and you and I have talked about this, at length, and what that means to us. And number one, the most important thing is that and we've talked about this. You and I, Samantha, have been talking about this for so long. You can't let your guard down, and it's so easy to let your guard down and think that everything's back to normal. The restaurants are opened, and people are playing. The kids are playing sports, basketball, flag football, hockey. And it's great that they're back out, socializing and getting exercise and having fun like they should. But we also have to remember at the same time we do have a responsibility to try to contain this and continue to be vigilant. And that means, people hate to hear it, but you still have to wear your mask. You got to carry it with you. And I keep saying, have that mask if you can't be social distant. And that's the one of the most important things. We're not looking for people to. We've talked about this. I don't want people shaming people if they don't have a mask on, because there are certain situations where it's 6 feet, you don't have to have a mask on, but you should have it with you. People need to know the importance of social distancing, good hygiene, and doing all the right things, and limit your indoor restaurants and stuff like that. We want to support our restaurants, but we also have to, be careful about this. And that's the one, the real message is we can't let our guard down. But the other one is, we're seeing an uptick not only across the state, but right here in Woburn. And it's we're in the solid yellow right now, which that allows us to keep doing what we have to do. But it'd be nice to get back down to green. But in order to maintain that green status. You know, we talked about the number of cases in the Commonwealth. It's 4 cases per 100,000 per day. So if you got 100,000 people, you can have 4 cases per day. That equates over a 7-day period to 28 cases. We have 40,000, so it's a lesser number, Samantha. We're down to like, 1.6, and that gets us 11 cases a week that we can have, and we're creeping over that. We're creeping over that by, we're up in the 30s right now for a 2-week period. So that puts us solid in the yellow. And it's not that it's, that's one of the indicators that you have to go by. There's also the positivity rate, which you're familiar with. That's how many people take the test and how many test positive. And we're creeping up on that, but we're, still, I think we're still within good range there. And the CDC has a whole list of complementary, complementary things that you should be looking at. And I credit the school department with doing a lot of the good things that the CDC is looking for. Even if you do have more spread on the ground in your city, they have each classroom is every student 6 feet apart. They have great PPE available. We have the solid, I think, solid mitigating factors on the ground. And you also have to look at where the spread is. And in this case, right now, we're not seeing any in the schools. We're seeing it in the community, but that's something we do have to, keep watching and just, you got to keep an eye at all the factors. And we're not going to be locked into one point that people might look at on any given day. So we're watching it. The Board of Health's working really well with the school nurses, and we just had a meeting this morning to talk more about it. And we'll do the best we can to keep moving forward.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And I think one of the other things we have to remember, I had someone in my immediate family who was someone at their work tested positive.
Right.
And you know what? We took a test and it was negative and they're totally fine. And we feel really good about that. But until we knew that for certain, we spent some extra time at home. We just were extra cautious, right? Yeah. And they would, didn't have any symptoms, and it was a little bit of a pain in the booty. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of hard and boring, and you don't want to do it, but we have to. And I think as long as we continue to do those things, and we will see small numbers, and I think it's good advice for the community. So thank you for catching us up on where we are at.
And if I could say one thing before you ask a question, you made a really good point that I do want to stress. And this is to all the parents who have, children that go to our schools, and they know this, but I just want to stress the most important thing that a parent can do if someone in their family, or if they know that their child was a close contact of somebody who's had a test or positive, their first call needs to be to the principal to let them know what's going on. Then the principal can elevate the information to where it needs to be. But the first call that the parents should be making is to their principal, so we can, make sure that the children who is a close contact of somebody's tested stays home, quarantines, and waits till they get a test. But that's my message.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good reminder for all of us. A couple of the little things I just want to touch base on. We have so there was a single-use bag ban that was put in place originally. It was supposed to go into effect, I think, in May sometime. With COVID, the state said, hey, we actually don't want people using reusable bags. We want to kind of limit the touching. This is when we didn't understand surface distribution and all the things around that. And so the new date of go live in Woburn for the single-use bag ban is on the 30th, which is this week.
Right.
Is that correct? That's still happening?
Yep. No, there was no continuation by the city council. At one point they did think about extending it, but they left it to where it is to be consistent with the state. And, the city council did a nice job on that. They were prodded along, as we know, by the Girl Scouts, which, sometimes you have the best awareness is brought about by, the children of the city. So that they should get a lot of credit in getting this plastic ban moving.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful that we have an engaged community of people who raised something that they cared about, and the community is supporting this effort. And it is something that we see in a lot of communities in Massachusetts. So just as a reminder, if you go to Market Basket and some of the other stores, they've already started to transition over to, you'll see paper bags because those are more recyclable and things. And always, so if you have reusable bags, bring them. You can safely bring them again. it's allowed and encouraged. So we appreciate that.
Yeah.
We also saw a new police hotline, a truly anonymous hotline, go live, I think, in the community
Yep.
a few days ago. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of for anything, right? Anything somebody wants to bring up.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that I'm sure the chief, he's probably due to come back, Samantha. Maybe you can get him back next week for an update on that. I'm sure he'd like to talk about that.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you a question that is completely unfair, and I'm just going to put it on the table that I realize that this has nothing to do with directly the city of Woburn, but it has been a real challenge for us. The mail service in parts of our city, we see every single day complaints. I got the wrong package. Something was supposed to be delivered and it wasn't. We know that the staffing in the post offices is lower than we want. Again, I know this is not a city service, but I'm just wondering if you are receiving those concerns. Is there anything that, conversations happening between the city and the postal service of, helping them recruit more postal carriers, or anything going on that might help resolve this for folks? It seems to be increasingly painful, and I realize it's partly because everybody's having things delivered to their home and going out less.
Yeah.
But seems to concentrate in certain neighborhoods.
We haven't had many calls at City Hall complaining about it. That's, in a sense, I'm glad, because the post office has enough concerns without me calling them. But I think that they're working it out, and if it does get to that point, we're sometimes these issues come up from the city council. I don't know, maybe when Joe gets on, you can ask him, since he's been on, if anybody has called him. But we really haven't had many calls about the post office. It's really been limited to, the hot items that are going on in the city. It's the library still, and
I wasn't going to bring it up today, Scott. I was going to give you a break, but I got a list. I got a list if you want.
Those it's really the library, the schools. People concerned about masks on Hon Pond. It's all the same issues, and there's issues with we still see protesting issues. We haven't had much around here, but we had an interesting week last week. Last week there was a little interesting incident that we had out in front of City Hall, and it's we're still a microcosm of what's happening in the country, and we've got terrible divisiveness on both sides, and it's
yeah. Well, I am pleased to see overall, I think we've been a community that's come together. There are certainly tensions and moments that we all recognize and see. One of the things, we were joking about the library before, but we have heard some, we've made some changes in terms of how people check out books, and there's been some questions about ADA compliance and things. And I know we have a new handicap commission, so I'm sure I'm assuming the group that would kind of look across the city, not just at the library, but across the city, and look for opportunities to make sure that we're doing as much as we can, and making sure that everything's up to code and such.
Yeah, I'm excited. The city council has confirmed the appointment, so they should, like we had planned, they should be up and running next week. With the library, it's funny because it's not funny, but we haven't had one complaint about the self checkouts from anybody who was, anybody who's handicapped, or anybody who's saying they weren't able to use them. So sometimes, these issues are raised by, people who are, I'm not even going to comment, but we haven't had anybody specifically say they're having a tough time using those. And sometimes I just question some people's motives, but the libraries, we're getting there. The big thing you and I talked about is what's really important is the children programming in the children's room. The library they've been great partners. The library staff has been great partners with the school department. We talked about those 2 rooms that the curriculum coordinators are operating out of. Also Maria, we've got the outreach program over there, and I think that as the year goes by, you're going to see more students using the library during their remote time. So it's coming, and one step at a time. I know not quick enough for everybody, but that we're getting there.
Yeah, I think we'll expect to see more students. I think most colleges that are in session physically, students are coming home for Thanksgiving and not going back until the term. So, but they'll still have courses and finals and such. So I know my own son, that's the situation for him. So I would expect that he's going to want some quiet time, and that we would expect other families to be able to use that as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the updates as always, Scott. I'm going to invite Joe to join our conversation today. Joe, I'm really excited to have you on board in your new role as city councilor.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So we're one city, but every ward kind of has its own personalities and geographic layout and challenges and opportunities. Tell me a little bit about your ward and what some of your top priorities are.
Sure. Well, primarily what's going on in Ward 4 right now is we have our new nursing being built. We did the groundbreaking this past Friday with local and state officials, along with our fire chief, deputy chief, and our great, outstanding first responders at the fire department joined us for that great moment. We have the issue of what's next with the women's school. That's an issue in the horizon. We also, as alderman faces, there's always small issues that come up in neighborhoods that it's your responsibility to do that outreach to the community and make sure you address those, anything from traffic to parking, roadway and infrastructure issues, water issues. So it's a wide range of things, and I'm more of a conduit for my constituents to access city government. Some folks might have never had a problem in the neighborhood and don't know who to go to in our city government. So I kind of act as, I guess you could call it, a middleman, and then try to do my best to make sure that their concerns are addressed. We won't be able to make me happy, but as long as people know government's there, responsive for them, and will do their very best on their behalf to make sure that their concerns are addressed, heard. I think that's my primary goal.
Excellent. And Joe, you've been a long time service to Woburn in many different capacities and many different ways for a long time. And we're lucky to have folks like yourself in our community. Tell us a little bit about why you were joined City Council this time, and what it was that motivated you to continue to help us out.
Sure. Well, just in a nutshell, I worked 10 years at the State House as the legislative aide for Representative Dwyer. Concurrently, along that time, served years on the school committee. The reason why I didn't run for school committee was I was looking at some new opportunities within my profession. So I didn't want to make that additional commitment and then have to resign if necessary. Luckily, I got a job local over in Chelsea, working for the state. So I've got the same amount of time that I had in order to help the community. And I just saw that opening on Ward 4. I'm very familiar with the ward. I know a lot of the people in the ward from my previous role, representing the people of Woburn. And I just decided up. I can say, I'm truly humbled that I was chosen by the city council to fill that position. But it is telling that we had so many great candidates who put their name in for that role and wanting it back to the city. And I think that's indicative of how great Woburn is and how people will step up and serve their community.
Actually, makes me think of a really good question, Joe. So
Sure.
Did you see I just complimented myself because it's a really good question I haven't even asked yet? But you did have a lot of people who expressed willingness to serve and interest in serving in this position. What are some of the ways that you're tapping into them as individuals as you're getting settled in to help them give back, obviously not in the same way as sitting on city council, but in other ways?
Sure. Well, I mean, everybody knows that I'm a pretty open book and you can reach out to me anytime. I guess I would call it an open cell phone policy because I don't have an office that you could call me at any. My number is on the city website. Luckily, some of them are already greatly involved in the community and public service organizations. Gone, who is Rep. Haggerty's legislative aide. I know him very well, and I know he's doing a great job in that. He also serves on the Woburn Traffic Commission. So everybody's kind of giving their all and trying to find ways to help the community. And I think what was great about those volunteers is that they came from such a wide background. We had multiple candidates, and I think when it came down to it, maybe it was the familiarity with me that I've worked with them and have had them as colleagues in local government. And then my experience to lean on and working constituent services and my familiarity with the workings of the city council.
Great. Well, we're grateful to have you and all those other people who are engaged, and I hope that they will stay as engaged in other capacities. Before I let you go and we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like the folks in your ward to know, particularly in terms of the best ways to reach out to you? You mentioned your phone number. I assume that's
Sure.
the best option.
My cell number is 781-835-9254. Email is jdemers@cityofwoburn.com. There's no issue too small, like everybody. I've been out in the community, a few constituents call that had local neighborhood problems, and I do my best to get out there and meet with the folks, see the problem firsthand, then just take it through an email, because I know that once you see firsthand, it kind of puts an image to what the issue is going on rather than what somebody's saying. So I'll do my very best to get out there. I know probably sometime in the spring, hopefully, with good kind of relenting, I'll be able to kind of get out in the neighborhoods and door knock, because I don't want to make folks showing up to the front door with a mask. But what I am hoping to do is I do a local Ward 4 town hall via Zoom, so constituents can come on, have a get to know your alderman event, because I was chosen by the city council, not the voters of the ward. So I want to be available and accessible to all of them and show that I'm not taking this position for granted, that I'm there to work for them.
Well, that's great. I love it. And Joe, you grew up in Woburn, is that right?
Yes, I grew up in the I guess you could call it between I was directly between the south end, the west side, and the center. So right off of Pleasant Street and Woburn on Manny Terrace. Manny Terrace was a subdivision for my grandfather's property. He was from Portugal, and he worked for the Woburn DPW in the highway department years ago. So when we subdivided and my mother got a house, my mother got land for a house, and my uncle got land for a house, they named the street after my grandfather. So it's an enduring gift to him, to appreciate all the hard work he had coming over here in the late 60s, early 70s, from Portugal, to get his kids a better life here in the United States. And so it's a lasting memory for our whole family and the people that knew him well.
I love that. What a wonderful way to pay tribute to that heritage. That's great. What's the place that you miss the most that's no longer around? Like your favorite, hangout spot, food spot, whatever it might be that those of us who weren't born here might not remember.
Question. That's a great question. I would have to say that I'll give you two options. I'll do, I miss Cousins, the infamous restaurant joint downtown Woburn. And then one of the things that I'll be very partial to, because it had my name in it, was actually Joe's American Bar and Grill is no longer. They were a victim of COVID and the shutdown and it not being deemed financially viable for the company anymore. And that was a great little spot there that had great food. And they were also great to the community too. They donated a lot of gift cards to a lot of events in the schools and across the board. The Lions Club, Taste of Spring, any events like that. And those great people who give back to the community, they're struggling right now. And I encourage everybody to go out, even if it's buying a gift card to use at a later date. I always say avoid Grubhub and Uber Eats, and either go have the takeout picked up, or if they have delivery, have it brought to the house, because it's supporting local business. And that's where those students that you talked about coming home for holiday break, they'll be working part-time. And those are the great establishments in Woburn that give back.
Yeah, you're so right about that. So what is your favorite place recently, some favorite food? Where have you been munching?
I try to bounce around a lot, and I try to do the mom and pops. So pretty much everything down, Brickyard, Tremonte. I'm I very much like Sam's Kitchen. I can tell you that during COVID, my scale has realized that I've enjoyed a lot of these eateries as well, because I've definitely put on the COVID 15.
I don't think you're alone, Joe, at all. Thank you for sharing some of your favorites. We're always looking for some great
No
takeout
problem.
locations
No
and
problem.
such. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Joe. And for those of you who are
Thank you for having
watching,
me.
thank you for watching us. We talked about a lot of great things. We got a chance to meet Joe Kinney and talk about what inspired him in helping Gloria, but also really rallied the community about our neighbors and friends. It's a good reminder that we can really make a difference when we put our mind to it. We talked about the single-use bag ban and a number of other things with Scott, and most critically to remind ourselves that while we are in reasonable shape, COVID isn't gone away, and we need to continue to use our diligence so that we can make sure to stay in the yellow and go back to green and not progress into a red status. The red status does trigger things that I don't think anybody else in the community want to happen. So to try and do our part to help there. And as always, Woburn, please continue to take good care of each other.